A Torah 110 in Likutei Moharan begins, Ki Torah hi ruchaniut. The Torah is a spiritual thing. It's not physical. Doesn't seem like much of a new idea, since we understand that this amazing book that God gave to Moses is not like any other book. And it is not simply black letters on white paper. Because white letters on white paper is actually a physical thing, right? But when we speaking the words, thinking the words, praying the words, chanting, the physical energy is receiving the spiritual source. There's a union that takes place. And he goes on this line, V'asher zach yashar po'alo, and the Torah's work is pure and straight, to the point. V'sichlo ruchani, and the intelligence behind the Torah, excuse me, is spiritual. In other words, the intelligence behind an engineer's work or a doctor's work or anybody who works with the materials of this world, including human beings, we're working with physical realities, physical things that are happening in the world around us through people and through material, whether it's stone or wood or metal or glass or diamonds. Those are all physical. And there's a physical intellect to know how to use those materials. But the spiritual intellect is something else. The spiritual intellect is how to connect things to their root in the non-physical plane. How to connect ourselves, our families, our behavior, our speech, our homes, our food, to connect it all back to the source. That's spiritual intelligence. And that's what the Torah has to offer us. Mostly is the spiritual intelligence, how to connect everything that we do to the source of light and love and healing in the universe. And the spiritual intellect that we're talking about, look what he says, your mind can hold the whole Torah, no problem. When it's a spiritual mind. When my mind is concerned with spiritual matters, it opens up new chambers of memory. When my mind is only concerned, worries about, thinks about, is longing for physical pursuits, then I don't create that non-physical intellect, the spiritual intellect, because my mind's not busy with it. And then we can't hold so much memory in our mind. And the Torah never forgets anything, and the spiritual mind never forgets. Your higher soul knows everything that ever happened to you. Your spark of God knows everything that ever happened to you, and a lot of what will happen to you. And our job is to attach to that spark so that we can unfold the information that God wants us to know about our lives. But the intellect that holds it is a non-physical intellect. What does that mean? Well, think of your brain as like a processor, and then you have a much bigger mainframe processor that is access to all kinds of information that our lower minds don't. Endless amounts. And for something to be endless, it needs to be non-physical. It needs to be spiritual. And he tells us why. Because a spiritual thing doesn't take up space. A spiritual thing does not begin in the physical, and it is above the physical, so it can go anywhere. And a true idea for you is the same true idea in my mind, and it doesn't take up space because it's not blocking my ability to absorb new information. You ever get tired in a class because you can only hold so much information? And that's true in the Torah sense as well. However, because it's spiritual and it's coming from the right person, a spiritual person, a true person, then you're actually attaching your brain to the speaker's brain as he translates the words and brings them down into this realm for you to hear and understand and enjoy and learn from and receive guidance and leadership through the Torah. And it doesn't take up space. Remember that, because other things take up space, even in our mind. And the Torah will spread out and dwell within his intellect as you learn it. And it can start very small. But someone who physicalizes the Torah, someone who thinks of the Torah as a physical document from physical sources in a physical world and doesn't think of it as a spiritual thing that's way above time and space and human consciousness, then that person, oseh mimenu mamashut, he makes the Torah physical. Azay yesh la shi'ur v'kivtza kamahu. Then there is a measure, there is a limit to what the Torah can hold and to what it can grasp in the intellect of the mind. And lo yoter, he says, there are limits to what we can learn if I'm constantly turning my spiritual ideas and learning and prayer and activity into physical things. In other words, how do I see this? Well, if I sit down to pray spiritual prayers for people, and all of a sudden I'm praying for physical needs. Now, praying for other people's physical needs is spiritual. But for our own, when I'm concerned with my own physical needs, I'm not focusing on the spiritual needs that are all happening all around me. But if a person wants to grasp more of the spiritual power of the Torah, he'll push out what already went in. Like every physical thing, only one thing can take up a physical place. This orange will take up its space. You push something into its space, it moves aside. And that's what happens also when we make the Torah a spiritual document, non-spiritual. And if a person wants to grasp more, he's not able to. He can't get more. Im kavar maleh, if he's already filled with the physical capacity that he has. But if he puts in more Torah, he will push away what he already had. And from there comes the concept of forgetfulness. Forgetfulness is when our heart is not in the learning. My heart is elsewhere. My heart is in the physical world. My ambition is in the physical world. My concerns are in the physical world. And I take something spiritual and I make it physical, and then it takes up space. And then I can't remember what I learned before because it's pushed out by something new. Because it's limited. Because I'm operating in the limitations of the physical world. But when we sit down in front of this book and you understand that this is not a physical book, this is not a limitation, and it's an expansion of the spiritual in the physical four walls of this universe. Maybe there's a few more walls, but no problem. But see, we understand here that source of forgetfulness is not that I'm dumb or not that I'm not a good guy or I'm not trying. But it's because I have not opened up those chambers of memory that the pure Torah contains. And you'll see that by the more you learn, the more you remember. It'll come to you easy. And then you see that the way the physical scientists, especially doctors, describe the universe is completely inside out, inverted. That we are spiritual beings in a physical realm. We're not physical beings in a spiritual realm. No, we're not. We are spiritual beings in a physical realm. We visit here and then we got to go away after 100 and something. So let's get this right. Let's get the order of things right. It's a spiritual universe that created something physical, a place for us to inhabit for a while, where it has enough water and enough oxygen to survive as human beings the way we're designed. But that's only one stage of development. And there's so much more coming. We want to be there for it, all of us, God willing. Have a great week.